Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. What's up, people? It's been the holiday weekend. I hope everybody had a very nice holiday. I'm actually recording this a little early because I went back to Philly, South Jersey, to see my family over the Easter weekend, and I haven't been back east for Easter in like forever. So that should be nice, and the boys get to meet new cousins and traveling, and I'm going to assume that on my American Airlines flight that the Wi-Fi doesn't work, and so I don't get any of those movies to watch, because the last, I think, 4 or 6 flights we've taken, the Wi-Fi never works and you never get anything. So I'm just going to assume that. Even got my little crystal ball here. So the boys have downloaded many Netflix cartoons, and I get to rest, maybe. We'll see. Doubt it. But I hope everyone had a nice holiday weekend. I know kids are off from school, and fun. Everyone seems to have enjoyed last week's episode with production designer John Elmanahy of Spinning Gold, the film Spinning Gold. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that. I had a nice bump in downloads for that, so thank you very much. I haven't watched much since I last recorded because it's only been 2 days. So I'm watching a lot, I'm watching a little, I'm watching everything. Definitely keeping up on my Housewives. I've dug deeper into the David Milch autobiography, and man, oh man, is it kind of depressing. He was like a heroin addict so far. He was he was at Yale at the time. At the time, John Kerry was there, and he was also in the same like Psi Beta Kappa or whatever fraternity brothers with George W. Bush. How crazy is that? I think it's crazy. And his roommate was Richard Lewis. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And then one of his first writing gig was on Hill Street Blues with Bochco. It's crazy. But I am enjoying it. A little depressing, but I am enjoying it. So let's talk a little bit about what I know about the writers' potential strike. They are setting up a vote strike, I believe, between April 11th and April 17th. So if they choose to strike, that will give them a little leverage, I think, in their negotiations. I'm not sure. That's how I would play it. And I haven't heard anything about, oh, yeah, we got this, and now we're happy, or we didn't get that, and strike. So that's the only thing I've really read about it. I did hear that someone gave me a theory of why also the industry is slow right now is because of the COVID regulations. So SAG, AFTRA, DGA, IATSE, we got an email last week that the safety agreement of the protocols will expire on May 11th. So, however, projects that are already in production can keep their established protocols of testing and everything. So the theory is maybe some producers are waiting to start their show after May 11th so that they don't have to pay all that money into COVID testing. And I completely understand that. I get that one. So maybe it's not all about the strike, or it's not all about streaming. Maybe it's the COVID money too. I guess. Let's see. On this week's episode, I am speaking with production designer Maya Sigel. And her recent project is Hello Tomorrow, which is airing on Apple TV. The full season is out. It's a science fiction comedy series that takes place in the near future world, yet has a retro design that Maya created. In addition to her work on Hello Tomorrow, Maya has also worked on several other TV shows and films, including To the Bone, The Girlfriend Experience, and I'm Not Okay with This, and more. You can check out her work on mayasiegel.com. And I was very lucky to get the full season of this ahead of time to watch. And at the time I spoke with Maya, only three episodes had aired. And I asked her if it was okay if we just talk about the whole season and I hold this interview till now so that you could hear about all these fantastic sets that she had to do, the neighborhood and the concept design of these vintage like tech things, this grocery store, there's brilliant wallpaper, there's a rocket at the end, but it's all retro, it's all like 1950s but they have cool technology. So I just thought it was really innovative, and I loved the integration of these old pieces with new technology. I thought it was super clever, and I've told tons of people, I've said it on here many times, Hello Tomorrow on Apple. I really loved it, and I really hope it gets a little recognition in Emmy season. So I hope you enjoy.
Great, and then you can just do it then. March.
And then I'll put it out end of March. Yeah. And then we'll. So sorry about that. That it won't be. I think I told it.
No, don't.
But it's so weird to me because I was completely unaware that this show was even coming out. I don't know why. I feel like I didn't read up on this at all. And one, it's a great little idea for a show. It's Billy Crudup, somewhat haughty still. He's holding on to it. And then you have these amazing designs that are vintage but futuristic. Like, how pumped were you to get this gig? That's all I kept thinking is like, wow, gem.
Yeah, no, I was super excited about this project. I had worked with Jonathan Entwistle on a show previously called I'm Not Okay with This for Netflix. And he was signing on to direct the first 4 episodes and be an EP on Hello Tomorrow. So he told me just kind of roughly what it was, which sounded really exciting. And then a while later, I got the pilot script. And then I met with the showrunners and the other creative producers. And yeah, I mean, in the pilot episode, the world is established and they're super descriptive about all of the gadgets and, it was super exciting. The minute I read it, I just started doing research.
Yeah.
And it was hard to stop. I mean, I had so much, compiled. So by the time, they told me that I had the job and I was going to New York, I'd already done a lot of work prepping it and sort of thinking about conceptually what the design of the show would look like.
The palette is gorgeous throughout the whole show. The palette of every episode, and the cars and their bedspreads and their rooms and the wallpaper, and it's just really fantastic. And I'm wondering when you're researching for this, obviously doing, I think, 50s and 60s is so much fun because they had such cool design shit back then that's still relevant now. But was there specifics of this is vintage but updated? like I'm sure the cars was already like in the script and everything, but did you discover while you were designing like, oh, we could update this piece or this thing like in the design?
Do you mean sort of taking things that were,
Like the
I'm
consoles,
not sure if I
like the
understand the question.
like in the
Yeah.
Vista, in the consoles in their
Hmm.
room. And like,
Hmm.
was that something like they referred to, or is that in discovery of like, hey, we can throw in like they have all these buttons in the console, and that it's like the TV is like, like a FaceTime and like things like that. So with that, integrating
For
that into
sure.
your design.
Yeah, so a lot of things were custom designed and built for the show. And we kind of repurposed some old elements
Yeah.
in there as well. The consoles in the room, I wanted to have something in each room that felt, it was sort of the goal. It was like, we want to ground this in the 50s, but also have a futuristic element in each set.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit, a taste of that. And you see that people have incorporated the tech into their world. So in the rooms, I thought it would be great to do like a take on a mid-century console and kind of have everything built in there. And so you have the old, tube TV screen, but then you have all of these buttons that control all the settings in the room, and like a coffee machine that's built in that, it had all these buttons, and it was sort of like, that's the coffee maker of the room.
Yeah.
And then I liked the idea of having a desk built in there as well. So it just kind of anchors that whole side of the room. That was the idea behind that. And that wasn't in the script. That was just something that,
Yeah.
Again, it was like always looking for opportunities to, in each set, to add something. The Vidicons were in the script, which I thought was brilliant. And it was really kind of open-ended about what they might look like.
Right.
But in general, it was just important to all of us that it was really like a 50s version of what the future might look like. Right. So I kept trying to take away, my present day lens as much as possible. And kind of mixing the old technology with the new. So it felt fun that it was going to be this, like an old TV screen.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to have some sort of a microphone that they could hold, that the actors could hold, and it had some weight to it.
Yeah.
And then it was built on this wooden base with buttons and a clock and some things, and speakers. And that was a design choice. It was also like a very practical choice because we were going to use them in different spaces. They were going to be in the booths, in the lobby, and then also in the conference room, and in every hotel room, and in people's homes. It's like a ubiquitous technology. So that kind of made them portable, and we built 4 of them and used them everywhere.
That's what you do. I did.
Yeah.
I loved how it didn't break for me in any part where it wasn't vintage. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't like, even like with the rocket, or like even that guy's like switchboards or everything, like the like it never broke into like all of a sudden 2023 tech or something like out of their 1950s what that was available for them. And I was like, God, that is so much fun, because when you're shopping as a decorator and you look at something, you're like, well, what could we make of that? Like, look at what they had back then. And you're right, like the weight, like I miss phones. I miss the weight of a telephone. I miss it. I miss buttons. But the weight of it brings you back, and I'm sure helped the actors too in, the realm of the universe that they were living in. I just loved it. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned the color palette before. I don't know if you want me to kind of go into sort of overall what my thought process was from the beginning.
Yeah.
Kind of organize the world into these two color palettes that kind of come together. And that was the Earth and then the moon and the future. And so Vistaville and the world that we're in this town is all earth tones.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a fall color palette. So there's lots of, oranges and earth tones. And then the moon is much cooler and sexier and blue. And the materials also, like in Vistaville, used a lot of warm wood. Mm-hmm. And in the Motor Lodge set, I wanted to use a lot of river rock, and the wallpaper is grass cloth.
Yeah.
And then, the moon is all sort of metallic and silver. And the Vista Motor Lodge kind of brings those two together, because it's like, in the time, the roadside architecture was always sort of looking towards the future and trying to draw people in. And so it's kind of, it marries these two worlds. And so our big colors in there are the blue and the orange throughout the hotel. And it also kind of translated to when I was thinking about the architecture, the lines in Vistaville are all straight lines. The houses in the streets of tomorrow, they're all these little traditional houses, and they kind of look like Monopoly houses from the bird's eye view. And then the future is all curves and domes and these organic shapes. And so you can kind of see that in the design of the Brightside lunar residences, in the gadgets, and kind of in the rotunda of the Vista Motor Lodge set as well.
Where did you shoot this? Where was that neighborhood?
So we shot in New York. The whole show was shot in New York. We had a few stages in Greenpoint. And then we were all over the New York area. We were in Long Island a lot for the neighborhoods and things, and the other boroughs. And, we didn't really, we shot in Manhattan once, I think, just once. And that was the Hartunian's grocery store was actually Barney Greengrass, which is fun. It's this, New York institution, Jewish deli that's been there forever. And so we kind of took that and transformed it into our market.
Oh my God. The market to me is like nightmare as a decorator. I don't know. I just nightmare. Because it's a lot of graphics. I mean, it's a lot on the art department providing all those graphics and getting them ready and everything. So to me, that was a lot. But I mean, I loved like the machine that took all the cans up, and like just the old town feeling of it. I thought was just fantastic. But I love all those.
Thank you. I mean, so it was a bit of a nightmare, and because the place is so popular, we had like a day basically of prep there. So we had it really planned to a T, and that was including lighting as well.
Can't be done.
And so our graphics team did an amazing job. The idea was kind of that in the script, the showrunners had written a couple of products in there, and the more we talked about it, the more I felt like, let's not have any fresh food at all in this market. Like everything, it's sort of a heightened 1950s instant food
bomb shelter food store.
Yeah, exactly. Like just add water,
Yeah.
or you put it in one of our machines. We have this cast master that you see later on, and so everything is like boxed, freeze dried, frozen, powdered, mostly in there. And then the deli counter, we covered everything with a graphic that has photos of kind of disgusting looking retro futuristic food. Yeah, and then SetTech had all of those boxes and everything made. Everything was prepped, and they had an amazing plan for it. And we really pulled it off, and we did it twice. We went back there again. In the second block, so we had to do it again. But really, so set decorator was George Titida Jr., and he is just incredible.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his.
He's honestly, people say that he's a legend, and it's true for a reason.
It's very inspiring. I mean, this is inspiring as a decorator. Like, to watch this, it's inspiring. It's all those fabrics, all those things get pulled together. It's like, I know it. It was bravo. Bravo to
it was a huge job, and he just he brought so much to the table, and his team is amazing. And it was a dream working with them. And the prop master was wonderful too, and really pulled off a lot. Basically, all of those gadgets were built practically.
Who was your prop master? I forgot to look.
His name is Eric Cheripka.
Oh yeah.
And he's sort of like a mad scientist. He was constantly making things and building extra things,
they always have another option. And you're like, how did you have time to have another option? How did you do that? I can't.
Yeah.
That's why I can't do props.
So great. And we had, and we kind of outsourced some things because there was just the quantity of stuff that we had to produce was so much that, Matt Pomerantz and Jet Sets here in LA built the base bot, the main bot.
Oh, wow.
And they did a great job. And it really it moved, it lit up, the body moved, all of it. And then there were puppeteers that kind of moved the hands. But yeah, we had some really, a lot of things lit up and they moved and they did function in a way, which was incredible with the time and the money that we had, that the amount that things did come together in that way.
What was your prep?
Ooh, I would have to look back and
not enough.
And at a calendar and see. Really not enough. Really not enough. I think it's never enough, but especially on a TV show, when you're doing something like this, it feels like if it was a movie, you would have months and months of prep.
Well, plus to your block shooting, so it's real. If like you said, so you're doing 2 at a time. So you're probably, I don't know, if you're doing 28-day blocks or something, or something crazy like that. Like it's 1 month, and then the next episodes are starting while you're prepping. Like it's a train. It's a chugging train.
It was
running me down.
It was really challenging, and all of it was happening at once. It was so. We had a lot of balls in the air, and it was like, hopefully all of this stuff comes in and it works.
Yeah. Because you even have the baseball stadium. Like, how much of that was a build, or the whole concept of that baseball thing was fascinating to me, to make baseball more interesting, or just to show that it was the American pastime and everything. I just love how that was integrated, and then how he's all betting on it the whole time. But
Yeah, the jet ball was a thing. That we scouted a bunch of stadiums, and at the end, we really liked the one in Coney Island.
Mm.
And for me especially, it felt the right, like it was the right size. And I was fixated on the seats because I knew that we were never going to be able to change out that many seats.
Yeah.
And the seats there they were green, which fit into our world, and they were period appropriate.
Oh, that's
so because a lot of the stadiums they have these cheap plastic seats, from the like the 80s. So that place was great, and then we did a lot of graphics there, and covered a lot of existing things, and then a lot of the VFX supervisor, we talked a lot about the exterior and what it might look like, and looked at references, and she did an amazing job with that. That's all her.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think the lighting design in the stadium too, like those circles that you have up, was that VFX or is that you?
No, that was there.
That was there. Oh, no way.
That was there. Oh. That was there. Yeah.
Good
that
location.
Was there. And Justin Brown, the DP, something that we sort of did throughout was use LED strips. And it was kind of this thing where we would highlight, I don't know if you can, but at the hospital, there's like down the hallway, there's just a line in the ceiling. Like we added all of those in the hotel.
Yeah. Recessed to highlight the lights. Yeah. When it's built in, it's great. Kind of, as long as you're not asking me for a light.
It just sort of added a little bit of a futuristic element too, and also helped light it. So he stripped away some of the lighting in the stadium so that it also kind of went with that theme.
Nice.
There. Yeah.
I mean, I was paying attention a lot to like the lampshades and the textures that we're giving and the designs and everything. And I mean, I think it's easier to get that on the East Coast, but I might be wrong at this point. I don't know, because there's a lot of vintage in LA, so I don't know if it's easier to get it there. But I loved all the lighting fixtures and just like how it was like, the hotel sometimes was really dimmed down, and the diner and everything, and how you're highlighting all the bottles in the back. And I thought that was beautifully done back there. That back bar is great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. The bar in the hotel was one of those things that the showrunners had mentioned at some point. Oh, we would love to like put an automat in there somewhere, right? Somewhere in the show. Like, can you think of something? And I was like, oh, let me think about that. And then I thought, you know what? Let's do it as in the bar in the hotel. So, you have all these drink names and buttons, and then you have the bartender, and the display of the bottles and everything. So I thought that would be fun. And then once I decided we would do that, I thought that we should also, in the opening scene, and that there's a classic diner.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I've got to continue this there too, because it's going to be a bot. And so we did something that's a little bit different, but also built these plexi boxes that were lit from the back and had all of the different bottles and, drink names above them as well. So it kind of continues with that.
A lot of acceptable social drinking back then.
Yes, definitely. For sure. Yeah, but there were so many. We had a lot of lamps and a lot of great practicals.
Yeah.
And they really sourced them from all over the place. I don't know. I feel like New York is picked over a lot, so they just
Well, and if you
That
need
deck
quantity,
team
you're not.
got things from all over the world, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Etsy and Craigslist and
Mm-hmm.
Wayfair.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
the the other thing that is so great that's technology forward are the cars, which is such a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful idea of just like having these beautifully old design cars just gliding along everywhere. It just makes you wish like that was a reality. I mean, car design back then was
Mm-hmm.
so good. It was so interesting and like they were pretty compared to like what we got going on now. But that also, that falls under you too in helping the design of all this and taking that under. Like how did that come up and go? Was it any did you have to buy a lot of cars to manipulate them, or is it just CGI? I don't know if CGI, I don't know what I'm saying, but is it all
Yeah,
effects?
yeah. No, you're right. So basically it was a collaboration, and the whole thing was kind of a process. When I first signed on and started, I was looking at all these concept cars, that because in the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
the car companies were paying to build these like really futuristic looking
Hmm.
cars that were very, very cool. And I thought maybe we could build a few of them. And then it became apparent very quickly that that was just going to be outside of our
Yeah.
budget and time um, restraints.
Yeah.
So, so we were like, okay, we're going to be using classic cars, and what can we do to make them special? And the guys again had always they called them hover vehicles, so it was never the
Hmm.
idea that they were actually like, they didn't want them flying in there like the Jetsons.
Right.
They wanted it to be sort of, it's still like using roads. um, and one of the producers, Ryan Khalil, brought on this guy. He met this guy named Eric Black who retrofits vintage cars,
Cool.
and kind of restores cars in a really unique way. And the idea of the kind of the covers that go over the wheels, that's where that originated from.
Mm.
And we all thought that that was just a great idea, and we workshopped it and eventually got to this design. And then my scenic team sculpted them out of
Oh.
styrofoam.
Oh wow.
And they were custom for the hero cars. They were custom fit for those vehicles. And so they were sculpted out of styrofoam and then painted chrome. And the cars were, our hero cars were, purchased. And then I picked the paint colors and they were painted.
Oh, that's awesome. Because the
Yeah.
interiors were
So
great. The interiors were great. Like, I forget the character's name, but her, like, sort of limo-ish one with, like, the curtains inside and the table and everything. With, like, that was, like, that would be cool to have. Like,
Yes. Oh, yes. So later on, yes, we had that limo, which was a gorgeous car.
yeah.
One of my favorite cars. And yeah, George and his team made those custom curtains for inside the vehicle. And then we designed another like cocktail drink machine that went into the side of the car, into the back, and got these little tables. And a lot of the cars were also reupholstered. I picked the leather and they were reupholstered. So yeah, they were, there was a lot of great work that was done to the vehicles, and I'm happy with them. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think it ended up being the best decision in the end. Yeah.
I think they turned out great. It's like, oh, I wish they were available. Like, not. I mean, and we all want to hover and everything, but still, the beauty of those cars and the color palette that you had, like, they just made pretty cars back then. I just, I don't know.
I know.
I'm not a car person.
I always, every time I see,
I know.
I'm not either. And every time I see those cars, I just think, oh, like, what am I doing driving around in my Subaru?
I know.
I wish I had this.
I'm in love with
wish
my
I had a beautiful
Nissan
car.
Murano. Yeah.
But they're not, the thing is that they're not what I wish. I always say this, my dad is a big car guy and collector. And I always say this to him, I wish that they could make cars that looked like that, but that had all of the modern conveniences that we have today.
Airbags,
seatbelts, power steering, like
airbags,
air conditioning, all of that stuff, right? Yeah.
But why can't they? I don't get it. I don't
know.
it.
He says it's really expensive to do, but I don't know. They were also not there. They're not. Of course, they're not like environmentally friendly anymore either.
They don't fit in compact spaces. Really, they don't. Yeah, no. They're gas guzzlers.
Hey, like
everybody had
do that now.
Everybody had a Hummer in like the early 2000s.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
God, that went away.
But now we're just like carbon emissions. I don't know. I don't know that we should be going back to those cars. But
we're dying.
Yeah, they were great. And then the APP truck was fun too. That one, the van. I looked the references that I gave to the prop master when they were starting to look for vehicles were a bunch of like French and Italian work trucks because I thought that they were a little bit curvier. They were kind of cute and friendly, which I think was sort of important for this truck, that it didn't look like a FedEx truck or a UPS truck.
Yeah.
And especially since, you have the stork and it's, all the APP branding, I thought that it would be nice if it was a smaller vehicle. So yeah, we found a really great one. And then that color for me, that teal, it's only used for APP.
Only there.
Really, you don't see it anywhere else in the show. And it's like, it's close to the futuristic, it's close to the blue, right?
Yeah.
Between the blue and the green. And so you can kind of see it in some of the gadgets, like the Vidicons. I didn't want them to be as bright as the Pantone that we used for the van, but it's like a few notches down.
Yeah. And
they're also kind of that color. And the idea is that this company makes all of the gadgets and all the stuff. So
the story really jumps like right into it, which I really liked too. And you're discovering, like, is this guy a shyster or not, or is he on it or not? Is he his dad? Like, you don't know what's going on really, if he's just trying to fool it, and then you discover all this about it. And I thought the supporting cast was great too, and that that chick who plays Myrtle, I would have never guessed that her storyline went the way it did. It was like really like, oh, I thought this was gonna go one way. It was completely unexpected. But in Myrtle's house, I loved that wallpaper. As you can see, I love wallpaper. But that wallpaper in Myrtle's house was fantastic. It was to die for. It was like just that color palette. And did you print that, or did you find it?
So Allison Pill, I think she's great, and she was one of my favorite characters, especially her arc over the season. Yeah, I think is great. And so my idea with her house was, she's married to Marvin, which is the Hover King, of Vistaville. So they're sort of like new money, and they have a lot of money. And he's a little bit tacky. And so I wanted it to all be gold. It's like everything's gold. Everything's just a little bit excessive. Yeah. And it's sort of like she's in this gilded cage. And that's her life. So that was kind of the concept for that. And then So George and I can't remember, I can't remember if it was Daniel or Vaughn, but one of the assistant set decorators went and pulled all of these wallpapers. And that one I loved because it was gold. I think it came from France, actually.
Oh, wow. I loved it.
And it was really great.
I hoped you kept a roll for yourself.
That was kind of the idea there. And that house was great. I mean, it was so hard finding homes that had not been gut renovated.
Yeah, because that split level so period. It was split level with the stairs and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so period. And we knew, I knew it would like play really well for the scene that we had in there. And the kitchen was still period too.
Oh, wow.
So, it's the hard thing. It's like when you're in a city like New York, where the real estate is so expensive, people just, they remodel things. And this was one of those homes where it was in Westchester, and the woman, the mother who had lived there, had just passed away.
Oh.
So they were putting it on the market, and it was just kind of, the timing was right, and it had not been touched. All the bathrooms were original too.
Oh my God.
I was like, do we have a bathroom scene that we could set in here? There were,
because the 50s were 70 years ago. Like, most people have renovated since then, even if
most people have renovated.
Yeah,
I know.
It's hard.
I know, and this one didn't. It was such a gem. So I'm really glad we got to shoot there. And it was also really hard. The location manager, this was one of those, I was calling him twice a day. Did we get the house? Did we get the house? Because you needed, needed signatures from, I don't know, 90% of the neighbors or something. But we got it. So that was great.
Oh, it's lovely. I loved it. I wrote down Joey's house wallpaper. And now I can't remember what it is. Now I can't remember what it is.
In Joey's
But I wrote down that I really liked it.
Yeah.
But now I can't visualize it. Well, sorry, but I really liked it.
In Joey's house, it was a floral pattern. It was kind of had like in our color palette, basically. It was beige, and then had a bunch of
oh yes,
kind of like fall tones in it. It had a little bit of and that was basically, I knew that we were just going to be there for the Christmas scene.
Yeah.
And so it was like, how do we make this look like the perfect picture of, 50s Americana Christmas?
Yeah. I mean, all of those vintage Christmas decor is always so great. It's always so fun.
It was so great. Christmas. Oh my gosh. The stuff,
the ornament, like
that
everything
brought in for
so good.
Yeah. And when we decorated the hotel lobby for Christmas, that was really fun too. And they actually got a lot of period Christmas decorations.
Oh yeah.
That were so fun. Yeah.
A lot of people kept those. I feel like those are, at least in LA, like I feel like a lot of those are around, which people were smart that they kept those and they sell them in all like the antique stores. And
yeah. I think that's something that people pass down because it feels like something that's emotionally important to people, whereas they trash other things.
There was, in the Vista. Is it Vista Motor Lodge? Is that what it was called? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It was circular, right? Was it circular? Like I mean, spatially, they used it so well because you have that like annex room and the restaurant bar and then like the lobby piece.
Mm-hmm.
And you had this, I mean, just great
Mm-hmm.
textures around that whole set and the wood tones and everything. I just thought it was so nice the way that they shot it and the way it was lit and obviously designed. But I didn't get sick of looking at it. Like, you know how they're like, oh,
Thank you.
was this a bottle episode? Like they were in the thing the whole time, but you're like, oh, look, now they're over here. Or, oh, they broke the glass to the annex room. And then, like, just trying to figure out the location of it because it appears huge and like a huge set just
Mm-hmm.
to design and to get up and running. But I just love the way that they shot it. I thought it was great. I wasn't bored of it at all. It was great.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Yeah, it was a big set.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna move a little
Oh
bit
yeah, I
because I'm
saw all of a
getting
sudden you're in the
blasted by
sun.
sunlight. Suddenly I'm just in the sun.
Yeah.
Um
You're lit. All of a sudden you got lit. Like
I'm lit. Suddenly I'm lit from the heavens. So yeah, so I started designing that set really, really early, basically my first day of prep. And so I didn't have future episodes. I talked to the writers about
wow.
things that might come up and that we might need in there. And I sort of did my best to incorporate those things. But yeah, so it wasn't completely circular, but I wanted to give the impression that it kind of was.
Oh, yeah.
The center was. So there's that big, circular lighting grid in the center. And then the curved wall on one end, and on the other, the built-in bench, and then the dividers.
I love the dividers.
Then,
I love those screens. They just were beautiful. I was wondering if you routed them, or did you buy them? Did you design them? I love them. I want one.
Yeah, so they were all yeah. So it was and I was inspired by architecture of the time. I was kind of looked at all these elements and I was like, I love the idea of having these screens that you can sort of see through, but they create a barrier. And so those were designed, and then construction routed them.
Wow. Beautiful.
Out of wood. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, and so the back walls are all, actually they're straight walls, but it's kind of, the set was not a square. It's sort of
like an oval?
It's not even no, it's kind of like a hexagon or something, Yeah, but not even.
Not symmetrical.
And not completely symmetrical. And basically, I wanted you to be able to move from one space to another easily, and also to kind of have areas where you could have sort of privacy and an intimate scene, and then, but also still have depth.
Right.
So that was kind of the thing, creating those little corners. And then it was nice because the conference room is attached to it as well. Mm-hmm. So you kind of get the depth there when you're in the conference room. I knew they were going to be in there a lot, kind of looking back into the lobby. And then you could walk through these double doors and go down the hallway and into the hotel room.
Yeah. It was beautiful walk and talks when they did. I mean, it was just so much just to look at besides the actors. It was great. It's like...
Yeah. Yeah. And, we did it old school. I mean, we had printed backdrops.
Oh, wow. Nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
Love backdrops.
Yeah. And we created the big one in the back, outside the windows of the diner and those back doors. We had the stills photographer take take a high-res photo of, wait, was it the stills? Hold on one second. Let me just go back to my memory.
I know. It's so much. I don't know how we all remember anything.
I cannot remember at the moment who made our backing.
Well, I wouldn't.
But
I would agree with you, whatever you said, because I don't. All I know is JC
whatever
backings.
it is, whatever it is. But basically, we shot a still at our location, where we did the exterior of the Vista Motor Lodge, and then photoshopped in the hover vehicles. So,
for the driving,
so that it
scenes.
felt like it was
no.
Well, just so that outside of the windows, you don't even see it that much, honestly, but it's there. Like it feels like it's connected to our location.
And was the the old age home that was a build? There are 2 bedrooms in the hallway. Where's a build?
The nursing
home.
Eternal Springs. So that was a build at a location. And it was a location that we used for a few different things. We used this atrium and turned it into the hallway of the hospital. And then we built the hospital room there. We just basically brought the flats and built it there. And so it was a similar thing with the bedrooms and the rec room. We sort of used, what was nice was that it had all of this great natural light and it had some architecture that worked. And so, we built within it and then were able to, look out the windows and make it feel like it was a completely on location.
So did you know early on that you would build like the interior of a rocket and like this the I kept wanting to say waiting room. I don't know. I keep thinking of like an airport waiting area. But did you know early on? Because you said you didn't have scripts, so you didn't.
No.
I
didn't. I didn't know. I didn't know until a little bit later on, and they were pretty good at kind of giving me a heads up of what might be coming up. So at some point I knew, we're doing this. We're going to have a rocket ship cabin interior. And then there was a lot of sort of working out how the scenes were going to work geographically with, how people got into the rocket ship cabin.
Yeah.
And we scout, for a long time, we scouted different facilities and we're trying to kind of cobble things together. And then at the end, I felt like it just made the most sense if it could all be connected. So we built the elevator, which, is inside the gantry. And which was the VFX shot, the seeing the gantry and the rocket, of course. And then we built that waiting room area. That's awesome. And then the jetway and the interior of the rocket cabin. So you could walk from the elevator to the waiting room, down the jetway, and straight into the rocket ship cabin.
Nice. Yeah.
Which I thought, would really help with shooting those scenes and the blocking and everything. And the inspiration really was, at some point at the very beginning, I was like, am I going to consult a scientist about the show and try to make it realistic? And
no,
I talked to an old friend, at the very beginning, who does a lot of like film and science work. And I thought, what, this is not, it's a completely different world. So we're just going to take creative license with all of these things.
I thought was better than the standard, because I just got off a space show, so I know all about the seats and the all the straps and like the G-force, and we wouldn't have that, and this has to be Velcroed and all that. So I was like, oh, this is much better. This is what you want. You don't want the reality
Right.
of like, oh, we got to strap in and all these things are for your feet, so you don't, the gravity wise. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That makes people want to fly. That makes people want to go to the moon. Not all this other shit.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was designed
Totally.
perfectly for that.
Totally. And I think like in the 50s, they thought that we would be able to have the technology.
Yeah, you would think.
To just sit in a flying car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or go into space without wearing a spacesuit. And so really, like a lot of my inspiration from that came from old air travel and airplane design, and really making the rocket ship cabin feel like a first class cabin on an airplane in the 50s.
That's where you want to go.
And it was, that's where you want to go. And the idea was, it was really inspired. The furniture was all custom built. The walls were made out of this material called Kydex, and which is this moldastic. And we went to a company that manufactures those walls for airplane cabins.
Oh, wow.
So that you could get all of these complex shapes, which, would have been really, really hard to make out of wood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you could do it. It's very time consuming, but you could do it. I mean, that's what I thought you did.
And it came, and it helped with the cut down on scenic time too, because it came in, they have all of these different colors of the plastic. So I chose the colors
genius
as well.
Done.
And then construction didn't, but they still they built these huge cradles to kind of hold these pieces.
Oh, wow.
But so that was that. And the furniture was really inspired a lot by Saarinen and the TWA terminal.
I was gonna say TWA terminal probably would have been my number one like thing to look at, because it was cool then and it's cool now.
It's still cool. It's so cool. It's one of those architectural spaces that you just feel awe in when you're standing there. And we actually shot our first scene of Jack pitching in that banquet room is in the TWA terminal, in that red room.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's,
I don't know the space, but I'm thinking of the scene.
Yeah, there's those red felted walls and these really cool domed light fixtures that cover the whole ceiling. So that was at the TWA terminal. But so that was kind of the idea with the furniture. And then I thought, well, people are going to be in there for a really long time, and so their seats will turn into beds. So that was kind of like that way. And you do see one of them open in one of those scenes. Yeah. And and then we had like each cabin, each passenger pod has like the TV screen and all of the controls and everything. And
should be.
They made a really good little flight attendants pod too. Yeah. George did they did a great job on that. So and it kind of, the ceiling fixture sort of mirrors the one in the Vista as well. Sort of anchored by this circular lighting source that's in the center of the rocket ship cabin. So and I loved the flight attendants' costumes. The costume designers.
The costumes through the whole show were fantastic. All the patterns,
amazing.
And then those like buttons or something. Like there was always I picked up on especially in the women's jackets or clothing, like an interesting like intersection of the button or something. There was always something like
Mm-hmm.
holding and it was wrapped around, or like it just it's like, oh, those are good made, well made clothes. Like they look good on everyone because they
Yeah.
were made better before. They were made to make you look better.
Yeah, there was always something interesting, and you know, Anna Terrazas and Hannah Shea did such an incredible job, and I think that their work is really inventive in the show.
Yeah.
And it was also just so, we were on the same page, and it was also, we were constantly going back and forth between each other's offices, and so they really made sure that everything, you know, they would go up and, George, can we have the carpet sample? Can we get the sample for the upholstery, so that everything just looks really seamless and harmonious? And, you know, I think both of us were really thinking about this in a very graphic way and wanted to stay away from too many patterns. Like, you know, there's wallpaper in a few of the homes, which I thought, you know, we could do because it's sort of that old world. But otherwise, we don't have, you know, there's a lot of texture, but there's not a lot of pattern.
It's solid and texture. It's great. It's
and they did a lot of the same in the costumes. And also we really stayed away from pastels, because I think, you know, it's easy with the 50s to kind of go into this like ice cream shop pastel-y world. And so we didn't. So the colors really work nicely together, I think.
No, it's beautiful. It makes you want to live then. It makes you want to like live in that time. Like the design of I always think of it like, oh, they had such good design then. And it seemed decently affordable. Like all those houses, like, you know, I don't know. It seemed like it was a turn, I guess, to like the suburban sprawl and just, you know, TVs becoming more in homes and needing more comfortable and designed furniture. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really exciting time for design. And I think that people were really, it was fun. The research was so fun because people were really thinking about the future, and they were thinking about what was possible. And companies were putting money into ideas that were kind of wacky and different, you know? And there were just a lot of really brilliant designers and architects and artists then. And so, it's like one of those moments where lightning strikes and
look at the influence. We're still ripping it off.
We're still looking at it, right? It still feels fresh.
Yeah.
And it was so long ago. But of course, you know, in the show, there's the darker side to it. In reality, of course, it's even darker. I mean, it wasn't, the 50s was not great for everybody. The 50s was great if you were a white man.
It's also terrifying,
you know, in America, right?
Yeah, reality.
But,
no,
that's the reality. It's great for white men, but you know, in our world, the dark part is really, it's some of the things that we're struggling with today. It's this endless capitalism and this consumerism and people having all of these products that are making their lives better a little bit, but not really, and are sort of distancing themselves from other people. And so, you know, you see that too. And there's the sort of well, since we're talking about the later episodes, you know, when you flash back to see Jack's backstory and what it was like when he was working at the APP regional headquarters, and how dehumanizing it is to sort of be this worker in this huge company where you're like a cog in the
Yeah,
machine,
like a
and there is,
robot. He was like a,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
totally. And there's literally a machine that is making calculations and spitting out his future.
Yeah.
And, it's super, super devastating. And I loved that set too, honestly. So
Oh
that
yeah.
was,
All of the HQ
it
headquarters
was a,
and all that palette and everything was so good. It was so good.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just, I thought it would be fun we found this brutalist building, which I thought was kind of perfect for that. And, we built that bathroom set, which was actually one of my favorite little sets.
Yeah.
And, it kind of incorporated that concrete and the red and the gray. And it's this really dark moment where you see, some of this technology, the sink, and how it can.
The red is really like intricate in that scene. And I was thinking, like, I don't know if there's not that much red in this. There's not that. I mean, you have maroons and other like saturated colors, but that bathroom was that a build? Was that there, or did you enhance it? Or
yeah, that was a build.
That was a build.
That was a build. The bathroom was a build.
Yeah,
yeah, and honestly, it was inspired a little bit for me by Frank Lloyd Wright and the bathroom of The Shining, which was inspired by a Frank Lloyd Wright bathroom. Yeah. But it's such a dark moment that I felt like the blacks and the grays and the reds really made sense there.
Yeah.
And they had this idea that there's some sort, they said there's a sink, and Jack is so distraught that he decides he wants to take his life, and he feeds his tie into this thing somehow. And so I still felt like, because it was our world, that it had to have this. I was like, what if the sink felt like almost like a car wash, and you had, like those big sponges that wash your car? It's something like that, where you put your hands in, and then, and then it dries your hands at the end. So that was sort of what we went off of, and we made it, and, special effects rigged it. So the whole thing really worked. The water came out, and then the thing filled up, and the sponges moved, and everything.
That's not a quick design. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a sink and everything, but that's not a quick design. And then to make it, and then install it, and shoot it. Like, that's a big process.
Yeah.
That sink.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely, it was a process. It was one of those things that I knew was coming up, and that was an important moment, an important set. So.
No, it's
cool. Yeah. And we used real tiles in there too. So you can kind of see, like, it has this gleaming quality to it, that bathroom.
I feel like more and more I talk to designers who not are allowed, but get the opportunity to use real materials. And it elevates the realism so much, because as great as some painters are, and you're trying to do marble, it's not the same. Or the tile, there's never quite the glare or the the reflection or anything. So using real materials is always preferred, but it's costly sometimes. But yeah,
it's costly, and I feel like it's it kind of just depended on what we were doing, where we were doing it, what the weight bearing capacity of wherever we were, the walls, are we on set, and also just looking at the budget and what's going to work out better. Our scenic team was so good. And actually a lot of things, like all of the river rock, they sculpted and painted.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic.
in the sets. Yeah, in the exterior and in the interior of the Vista Motor Lodge. Um, because there was just no way we were going to use,
Get
you
that
can't even
skin.
get that. First of all, that river rock is, I don't even know if you can get it in California anymore, but it's a West Coast thing.
Oh.
So there was no way we were really going to get that. And, so they did an amazing job with that. And a lot of the wood, was faux wood. And yeah,
They did a great
so
job.
they did a lot of really, really incredible things. But with the tile, it just made sense. We found, Set Deck found some great tile, and it was really reasonably priced, and like,
It's
we don't need to do anything to this.
it's
Let's
so funny
install it.
because
Yeah.
I don't here in our unit I don't do tile, I don't do carpet, I don't do
Yeah.
I keep thinking oh man, if I had to more applauds to those New York decorators because I don't want anything else on my plate. I already got enough.
I know.
They do glass.
And
they
windows.
do yeah, it's crazy.
And they do the windows too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difference, and I've worked in LA and New York. But I still sometimes would forget. I was like, is this
You forget by
room? Is this construction? Is this Set Deck?
Do you think they'll I mean, I'm hoping, but do you think there'll be a season 2? Because I gotta know what's going on up there.
I know. I mean, they're gonna make it up there, and we have to see what's up there.
I know. Also, when did you? Because I've been at Sony and I've seen Billy Crudup a bunch of times because he's on the morning show. So I'm like, when did they film this? When did you film it last year or early in the year?
Yeah, we wrapped in spring.
Oh yeah.
Of last year. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's handsome.
So he is, and handsome. He's just a great person. And he was, one of the executive producers on the show. And he would come in and check in and the art department office and see what was going on, and was in all those kind of big meetings that we had. So yeah, he's awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I hope we get a second season too, but you never know what the algorithm is. So we'll see.
I think because Apple seems to do what they want. I don't know what they want. See that there's just so much that goes into the design of things that already are designed in this show to make it modern and incorporate this technology. And even the cars. I mean, I wish cars were that cool still. It's just so if you can check out Hello Tomorrow on Apple Plus. I can't thank Maya enough for giving me an hour and going through all of those sets, and I'm so thankful to Apple for letting me see the whole thing, so that I could speak with her when I could. And yeah, I don't know, if you're an Emmy voter, I would check it out. I really loved it. I mean, I loved it. The story, hey, I'm not voting on story. I'm voting on production design, and I liked it. So, it's still a good, interesting story. And I think with a lot of series these days, there's always 1 or 2 episodes where nothing happened, or it gets boring, or whatever. I don't know what's going on, or it was too slow. I have a big problem with too slow. I don't know where my attention span has gone, but I just enjoyed the series. And like I said, I can't wait. I really hope there's a season 2 because I want to see what these people are doing up there. So, spoiler, I wanna know what's happening, because it's innovative, and I really want to see where the design goes from all of this. So I hope that there's a season 2. So fingers crossed for the viewer here. Yeah, so in the next couple weeks, I have production designer Catherine Eder from the new version of Hellraiser and BMF. I have Jordan Ninkovich, who did we have a really good little repertoire because he also started on Hallmark movies and is doing these like 10 a year or something. It's kind of crazy to talk to him about that and know that system that they're chugging him out over there. So that's coming up. I have James Bartle, production designer, Clarence Major, and then we're getting into Emmy season, people. And I'm just gonna give you a little homework. Maybe watch Schmegadoon season 2. Maybe that should be your homework. I don't know. I got a lot. I mean, I'm really proud of myself. I got a lot going on. I have a lot of interviews in the bank. Regina Graves, set decorator, is coming up. That's a really good one. Hold on, wait for that. So yeah, and I didn't even tell you I got a job. I hate to say it out loud before it happens. But I start end of April, so I don't even know how I'm going to fit in my job with all of this great podcasting coming at you. So get ready. Here it comes. I hope you got an earful. I'm Kim Wanup for Decorating Pages.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. Keep the work area clean and organized throughout the renovation process to create a positive impression and minimize stress for the customer. Regularly clean up debris and dust to maintain a safe and comfortable living environment. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.